everyone to the Two-Sided Truth Debate Cast, where we debate it, defend it, and then you decide. A debate cast where the facts are presented and you decide the winner. I am your moderator and host, Lisa Tracy. I'd like to give a shout out to our truthers who are subscribed to the Two-Sided Truth Debate platform and are listening out there. Our sponsors for this evening's event is The Flip Side with Lisa Tracy and Shy High Apparel. I'm so excited that you decided to join us this evening. Tonight, we have two debaters for the first time gracing our stage with their presence with opposing views, Shannon Nicole and Michael Allen, debating on the topic, the COVID-19 response. Was it necessary protection or government overreach? Who's gonna win? We have a new prediction feature where you can predict tonight's winner of the debate before your first topic starts. If you're subscribed and you choose correctly, you can win 50 engagement points, where you're one step closer to getting a badge or a discount off of the Flip Side merch store at theflipsidewithlisatracy.com. Results will show up at the end of the debate. So, here are the rules of engagement. Our debaters have 5 rounds to debate. The first 4 rounds, are 8 minutes long, which includes debaters laying out their arguments and presenting their facts. Each debater will both have a chance to respond before moving to the next round. The last round is our debate or die round, which is our sparring round where our debaters will get a chance to ask each other questions and respond. We've made the last round triple points just in case there is a tie. In the case that there is a tie at the end of our last round, our AI Ardent will determine the winner. You, as the winner, will vote. You will have a chance to vote on each round. We also encourage you to make comments in the chat, but we ask that you are respectful with your comments. Our debaters have worked hard to present their arguments, so we think it is extremely important for you all to be polite. This message is to our debaters and our viewers. It's okay to be emotional and passionate, but we want you to be respectful. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. However, you can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. So at the end of this debate, we will have a winner because you would have voted. So let's begin. All right. So let's welcome our debaters. New to the Two-Sided Truth, I'd love for you all to introduce yourselves and give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and what side of the aisle you stand on for this debate. We'll start with Shannon. Shannon, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what side of the aisle do you stand for this topic?
Hello, everybody. My name is Shannon Nicole. I am the host of the Realist Lounge, where culture meets context. And basically, I am a content creator, and I also dive in deep to anything regarding culture, regarding history, and regarding politics. And basically, my stance on this topic this evening was that I feel like the government did the best that they could with what they had in such a short period of time. I do understand that mistakes were made, but we were dealing with something that our country never experienced. We were dealing with something that our generation never experienced. And COVID-19 definitely was one of the most disruptive global crises in modern history. And I feel like our government was forced to make decisions in real time, a lot of the times with incomplete information. While hospitals were overwhelmed, millions of Americans were afraid and lives were being lost. So my position tonight is not that every decision was perfect, because they weren't. My position is that the government, including the administration of Donald Trump at that time, they took emergency actions and they believe were necessary at the time. So that's just kind of where I stand.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate that. All right, Michael, gracing our stage for the first time as well. Please introduce yourself and tell our listening audience a little bit about you, as well as your stance in terms of what position you stand on for this evening's debate. I think you're on mute.
You got me now?
We got you.
All right. Sorry about that. First,
That's okay.
want to thank you for inviting me onto your platform to discuss what I feel is an important issue. Looking forward to having some fun tonight and getting some things that I have talked about in media quite a bit out on this format tonight. A little bit about myself. I'm a born and raised Chicagoan. Professionally, I work in insurance. I also design, I have an apparel line that I am or have created that will be launching this summer. Real consciously inspired, fashionable brand. So been working on that for a while. So that is what my passion is. And I do have a strong passion as a Black nationalist for the liberation of our people. So that is a real strong motivator for me and really will be the foundation of some of the things that I'll discuss. So my position with regard to COVID-19 response, quite honestly, Lisa, I don't even think it was government overreach. I think more appropriately, it was really a collusion of government, media, lawmakers, and big pharma to create the conditions that created the crisis that we know as COVID-19. So I think more appropriately, I would call it a crisis of collusion. So that will be my position, and that's where I'm coming from this evening.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Shannon. I want to remind our viewing audience, remember your job is to go to the twosidedtruth.com and vote. You are only allowed to vote once without being subscribed or signed in. Subscriptions are free, so subscribe to the twosidedtruth.com to vote. If you are subscribed to the Two-Sided Truth, don't forget to check out our leadership board. The more you interact and vote and comment, the more points you earn to receive different badges and discounts on our merch store. If you're looking to support us, buy some merch. Check out our merch store at the flip side with lisatracy.com. You're able to see, and you're also able to see the different shirts under the stream on the twosidedtruth.com as well. Also, don't forget our AI agent, Arden, is listening tonight. He doesn't take sides, he doesn't have feelings, and he cannot be charmed. He will be fact-checking at the end of the debate. Arden gives his own verdict in who he believes won the debate. Viewers will still vote in each round, and the winner of the debate will be based on the viewers who voted. So if you're watching on the debate platform, keep an eye out for Arden. It's going to be rather interesting. Before we get started, we're going to go take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to dive right into round one. So we'll be back after this. The Two-Sided Truth debate platforms let you vote for the best debater. Just click the Live Now, Watch Live Debate tab to watch an ongoing debate and explore the Active Voting Guide and Comments tab. On the Active Topic page, you can see the debaters and their current topics. Click a debater's name to cast your vote, and you can also change it anytime. Once a topic ends, the next one opens for the voting. You can also vote multiple times. For extra help, check the Voting Guide tab and join the conversation by leaving comments and interacting with other viewers.
Cantik berkelas, bukan sekadar cantik ini berkelas. Cantik berkelas, lihat jelas dari cara jalan sampai gestur house. Cantik berkelas, level beda, bukan yang bebas. Berkelas, feel the class, elegan vibe, yeah I'm built to last. No cheap talk, semua define. Cara pikirku different kind. High taste, no compromise.
All right, it is our fire starter round. This is our first round. And of course, you know what it is. Light the match and state your case. All right, to give you a little bit of an historical information. In late 2019, a mysterious virus emerged in Wuhan, China. Within months, COVID-19 spread across the globe, leading the World Health Organization to officially declare a pandemic on March 11th, 2020. I remember it was a few days before my birthday and I couldn't go anywhere. Governments were worldwide responded with measures many citizens had never experienced before: lockdowns, travel bans, school closures, mask mandates, vaccine requirements, business shutdowns, and emergency declarations. At the height of the pandemic, over 7 million deaths worldwide were linked to COVID 19, according to the World Health Organization. The US economy saw historic unemployment spikes, with millions losing jobs within weeks. Students in some regions missed nearly 2 years of normal in person education. Governments and tech companies face criticism over censorship, surveillance, and restrictions on public gatherings and speech. Supporters argue these actions saved lives during a once in a century health crisis. Critics argue governments use fear to justify unprecedented control over movement, education, and personal choice. Tonight's debate asks a question that still divides the world years later. We are in 2026 and we are still divided on this. Did the government protect society during a crisis or cross lines that should have never been crossed? And Shannon, I have to tell you, the person on my left always goes first, and it's you this evening. You're going first. All right. The subtopic for round one this evening is lockdowns, shutdowns, and economic fallout. Did lockdowns save lives or cause unnecessary damage? 2 minutes. Oh, you're talking. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I feel like when COVID hit America in 2020, the country was facing enormous uncertainty already. Hospitals in places like New York was completely overwhelmed. We were running out of ventilators; those was on short supply. Medical workers were literally reusing masks around that time because they were running low. And at this point, I believe our government was just really trying to slow the spread long enough so these hospitals would survive and they would take in more people who may be going through something others outside of what was going on with COVID. The purpose of these lockdowns, it was never supposed to be permanent control. And that's what I think a lot of people fail to realize. It was really to buy time. And then the time was for testing, it was for emergency planning, it was for eventually vaccines and treatments. And I believe our president tried to balance public health with economic survival. While many people were only focused on the shutdown, because we all was freaking out about the shutdown, but they also ignored the massive economic relief efforts that was pushed by the administration. We had things like the CARES Act, which was 2.2 trillion relief package that helped out a lot of families that were struggling. That also allowed people to actually get 13 additional weeks when they were unemployed, in addition to the 26 weeks that they were given with unemployment. We also had PPP loans that was distributed hundreds of billions of dollars to local businesses, small businesses, as well as Operation Warp Speed, which accelerated vaccine development within a year. So, as I stated before, I believe our government did the best that they could with what they had in a short period of time. And that's just where I stand, and I land my plane on that.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Michael. All right. Same question. You are up. Lockdown, shutdowns, and economic fallout. Did lockdown save lives or cause unnecessary damage? 2 minutes.
Well, no, I don't think that lockdowns save lives. I think that lockdowns were part of a strategy to isolate, separate people, to create the environment that ultimately would lead to vaccine mandates. I think that the world had to slow down in order for this plan to work and be implemented. And what I mean by that is we could not live life normally without there being an overarching umbrella of fear. So when people's lives were interrupted in the way that they were, meaning that they could not go to work, they could not travel, they were highly regulated on where and how we could move. That created the psychological climate that led to what I feel is the vaccine mandates because people were scared. And none of this works without creating fear and anxiety. And lockdowns created fear and anxiety. They destroyed jobs, they destroyed industry, and the prices that we were dealing with as a result of all these lockdowns still have not been fully realized as of this, 2026, 2026, we're still in the midst of that economic calamity that COVID caused. So no, I do not think at all that the lockdowns were necessary, and they hurt more than they helped to stop the spread of this virus.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. All right, the polls are open, you all. The polls are open for you to vote for this subtopic. Um, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, but you can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. You can also come over here and stream with us as well. You can comment, you can vote, everything you can do on those other streaming services, with the exception of voting, you can do over here. So don't forget to cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. All right, Shannon, would you like to counter?
Yeah, because
2 minutes.
I understand exactly where he's coming from, but at the same time, like the economy suffered worldwide. It wasn't just in America. This was a worldwide thing, and including countries with fewer restrictions. And people were staying home because they were scared of the virus itself. They weren't necessarily scared of the policies. They were scared of getting sick. They were scared of being in environments where there's extra people. And I believe that the media played a big part in that. The media definitely played a big part in that. So I do agree with you on that stance, because it was telling us that we had to be 6 feet away from people. If we did, germs would spread. So I think that people were more afraid of being sick than they were afraid of the government overreach. And I think that the government, they possibly were also getting information that was saying that that was the best way to keep us from getting sick. Is staying away from people, staying 6 feet away from people, putting masks on. And then those masks weren't good enough. So now you got to get these masks. So I think that it was a bit of double dutch when it comes to what we needed to do. But overall, people were just scared of just getting sick. They didn't want to get their people sick. They didn't want to get their baby sick. They didn't want to get the elders sick. And nobody wanted to lose their taste buds around that time either. We just were scared of getting sick. I don't think that it had a lot to do with the policies that were at hand. And as I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, they did the best that they could with what they can in a short period of time. And I think that it would have got worse if we probably didn't lock down, if we didn't shut down at the time that we did, because being somebody who, like me, who worked in a restaurant, I'm around people all day long. I'm around germs all day long. So I think that that helped me out from not getting sick, as well as the people that I served. They didn't get sick either. So that's just my stance on that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're
All right.
welcome.
The polls are open, you all. The polls are open. Michael, would you like to counter?
Definitely.
minutes.
I feel that the administration was a complete disaster. So I'm going to really disagree with you on feeling that the administration did a good to moderate job of trying to mitigate the conditions. In fact, it was very confusing because things changed almost daily in terms of how to deal with this virus. And the first time in our lifetimes, we were dealing with a virus that hit the East Coast and West Coast and every point in between at the same time. So I'm really curious as to how this virus itself rolled out, because person-to-person contact is illogical. So I feel like there were other forces at play that created the pandemic that we saw. So the administration was a disaster. It was based on these 6 feet social distancing and masking were have been admitted to being completely made up. So that we were following the science, which is what we were being told, is completely false. They were making it up. And again, I think that it was a coordinated effort in order to create the conditions that were ripe to vaccinate people. Okay. They colluded to do this. And yes, the media was involved heavily because all we heard 24 hours a day was how many hospitalizations and how much death was attributed to this disease. And if I have this much of your attention, I could make you scared of white rabbits in your garden. So I do not believe the administration did a good job. So that is my position.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, the polls are open, you all, for just a few minutes. All right, let me go to some of these comments here. Um, so, Unplugged Free Your Mind says, mysterious virus that was created in the lab. I still can't believe people fell for this. Raza Ray 39 says, people were dying that never died before. Let's see. Unplugged for Your Mind says the overreach was them lying about the restrictions. They were making us afraid. And then Unplugged also says you had Fauci lying to the administration, so that's not Trump's fault. All right. Would any of you all like to respond to any of those comments?
I would.
Okay, 30 seconds.
So yeah, and I'm going to agree with that last brother who spoke. It was made up. I mean, in order for any of this to work, we're going to have to believe that this virus somehow that was created in a laboratory in Wuhan, China, and they blamed it on a bat, was responsible for this calamity. No, this was not the case. So I don't believe it. So my position is firm that this was a make-believe calamity.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I have a question for Shannon. Excuse me.
Hmm?
I'm just getting over a cold. Well, I still have one, thanks to my cousin. If lockdowns were necessary, how do you justify the millions of people who lost businesses, jobs, and financial stability?
Oh, well, I think that like it's probably one of the hardest parts of the pandemic because there absolutely were negative consequences for that. But I truly believe that the reason why we had to move fast is because we had no idea what was actually about to take place. Like this is something we never dealt with before. And even with all of those situations that you just named, we had to counteract with the CARES Act. We had to counteract with
Finish your statement.
well, we had to counteract with certain policies that was put in place in order to make sure that it didn't continue. So it really was kind of like that. Like I said, they were just moving and expanding on a situation that we never experienced before. I agree totally with the fact that they believe that it was something outside of the administration, but I do totally think that it was just something that we needed to do in order to make sure that it didn't get worse, that it
Okay.
didn't create more of an issue and more of a problem than what we already had.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Michael, without lockdowns early on, what alternative would have realistically slowed down the spread? 30 seconds.
Natural remedies. Natural remedies. People were sick. There is no doubt that COVID was a real thing. The methodology in treating was highly debatable. There were many medical professionals and scientists who were silenced, who offered alternative treatment to COVID, but they were considered quacks and they were silenced. So, natural remedies.
you want to finish your statement?
I was just going to say that natural remedies. There was a point in time that Mr. Fauci said many years ago in an interview that natural immunity was the optimal state of dealing with a virus, right? He said that in an interview 20 years ago, but somehow the weather changed and there was no talk of natural immunity when COVID came out. There was no discussion about any alternative treatments. In fact, everything that was being discussed at that time was either the vaccine or you were at risk of being censored, shut down, or losing a medical license. So there is sufficient evidence to believe that there was collusion happening to steer people in a direction of pharmaceutical drugs, billion-dollar pharmaceutical drugs.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you all, the polls will be closing in probably 20 seconds. We're moving on to round two. And round two is, of course, trial by fire. This is when people face the heat and defend their positions. Masks and vaccines became some of the most politically and socially divisive issues of the pandemic. Governments, employers, airlines, schools, businesses introduced mandates requiring compliance in order to work, travel, or participate in life. Supporters viewed these measures as responsible public health protections designed to reduce severe illness and protect vulnerable populations. Opponents argued the mandates violated bodily autonomy, pressured citizens through fear and social exclusion, and blurred the line between public health and government control. Michael, you are up. Subtopic number 2. Mask mandates and vaccine requirements. Public responsibility or forced compliance. 2 minutes. The polls are open, you all, for this subtopic.
So I don't know if I need 2 minutes, Lisa. They were forced compliance. I just said, listen, they have walked back. The leaders of the vaccine movement, Fauci and that team of science, pseudoscientists, have all walked back every single claim during congressional hearings that talked about masking. They made it up. They talked about social distancing. They made it up. So if we are now honest and we are looking back in hindsight 6 years ago, these things that they were qualifying as scientific fact and the best use of technology at that time, they were make believe. We did not know that at the time. What would have been respectable is for these people to come on and say, we don't know what this is, but we have a alternative you can choose if you choose to protect yourself. That's not what they did. They colluded to make and steer people into a vaccine. So we know now that paper mask was a paper mask. It looked good. If you had the star-studded Gucci mask on, it looked great, but it was not effective in stopping the spread of a virus. The COVID vaccine itself did not work as a vaccine, which is why they had to change the definition on the CDC website of what a vaccination was, because there were always what they were calling breakthroughs with people who were vaccinated who kept getting this virus from that cure-all vaccine that was not.
All right, thank you so much. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open on the twosidedtruth.com. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, but you can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. Shannon, mask mandates and vaccine requirements, public responsibility or forced compliance? 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. I was just kind of confused on who is they, because we keep talking about they, and Trump was being criticized from both sides. So some people said he didn't even lock down enough, that he didn't do enough, while other was saying that he was doing too much. Now, when it comes to the whole lockdowns and the mask, I mean, we also got to understand that personal freedom, yes, it matters, but public health emergencies also affect other people. I'm being one who actually was wearing the mask, and then when I took the mask off, is exactly when I got sick. So somehow, some way, depending on what kind of mask you had, I do believe that it was helping. But we also got to think about that Trump also explored possible other treatments. Like there was one called hydroxychloroquine that he actually took when he got sick, but it was slammed by the FDA. So he was giving different remedies for us to utilize, but that administration was so divided, they couldn't agree on what was best, so they went with the vaccination. But at that time, doctors around the world, they were trying different approaches because there was no established cure yet. But when you're saying natural remedies, I'm curious to know what natural remedies could have helped. Because I could say there's several people who have used natural remedies that you probably are talking about. I don't know if it's a hot toddy. I don't know if it's NyQuil. But the only thing that could get rid of a virus is possibly either a vaccination or something of that such that needs to be studied in a laboratory. Unfortunately, we didn't get it the way that you probably are saying, but I believe that they did the best with the vaccinations that they put out there because it was able to stop it. It was able to save the elders, people who were elders who were dealing with this. They didn't have a choice. They couldn't get a natural remedy that you're speaking of, sir. So the vaccination was probably the only option at that time.
All right. Thank you so much, Shannon. We are streaming live. You guys, the polls are open for the subtopic. Come to the twosidedtruth.com to vote. Michael, would you like to counter?
Definitely.
All right, 2 minutes.
So my counter is this, that we were told first that this virus came from an undercooked bat in the wet market in Wuhan, China. Wuhan, China, for those that might not know, is the place where the Wuhan Institute of Viral Immunology is. And I'm sorry if I have mislabeled them, but it's a center where they study and create viruses and techniques and treatments. So it's interesting that this virus emanated in a place that was being funded by the NIH here in America for this gain of function research. So that was happening at the time that this virus came out. So my point to her is, if this was a virus that came from a species of a bat and jumped into a human, which is what was told to us at the time, then I'm also inclined to believe that there is a natural remedy. We are making a false assumption and equivalence that a vaccine somehow was the magic bullet, because that's what was sold to us. They were saying at the time when they rolled this vaccine out that you take the vaccine and you can go to Disneyland. You can take the mask off and go to Disneyland. But the problem is that everyone else had to have the vaccine in order for my vaccine to work. So the ridiculousness of that is what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous. It's like my car insurance has to be in place in order for your car insurance policy to enact in a situation where you have an accident. That was what was being presented to the public. I say cap. It was cap.
All right, thank you. Shannon, would you like to counter?
I mean,
2 minutes.
I mean, early in the I want to make sure my mic is on. I mean, early in the pandemic, scientists were still learning like how immunity even worked. I mean, leaders was making decisions based on the information that they were given at the time. And I mean, like I said, Trump didn't just push vaccines. He pushed multiple different treatments. The government was very divided around that time. That's why I keep wondering, like, who is they? Because he had other, I mean, we here, bro. I'm here with you, and I understand what you're saying. But what I mean is that, like, we got to understand that we were dealing with a government that was not working together for the betterment of our people. We had one man who probably was doing the most that he could, and he was actually fighting with Fauci. when it came to what's the best option. And I believe that we have no idea, honestly, where it came from. We don't even know if it came from a bat. We really don't. It's something that we were also told. And as I mentioned before, they were just doing the best that they could with the information that they were getting. Unfortunately, it wasn't coming together for the betterment of everybody, but I believe that they did the best that they could, because eventually the numbers did start to dwindle once they did push out those vaccinations. People were able to enjoy themselves more. They were able to go out and be with their families, be in parks, and be free. So I believe that it was just, I believe it was a sacrifice that we possibly had to go through. And unfortunately, that sacrifice did come with possibly some misinformation. So I agree with you on that level, but I don't believe that that had anything to do with the administration, and that had everything to do with the people that's above him, the networks that were pushing out those lies about those numbers. And that's what I believe that we need to start paying attention to when it comes to natural crisis, because truthfully, like I said, Trump acted the best way that he could in a situation. And I think that maybe nowadays we could start questioning who was telling us this information. And those are the people that should be held accountable, not the administration that was in charge.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
All right. I got a few comments from the chat. Michael says the Center for Disease Control stated that most masks were inactive unless you were wearing an N95 mask. The mask you had on your face was ineffective. When it comes to vaccines, the Center of Disease Control states that it takes 5 to 15 years for a vaccine to be considered effective. This means the vaccines that people were forced to take, according to the CDC, could not have worked to that level. Excuse me, could not have worked to the level that people think that it did. Uh, Jose says, let me go to natural remedies. What natural remedies? How do we know which natural remedies would work? My bodily autonomy ends when it puts you at risk. They made it up. Make believe they did say that they didn't know what it was. That's the very definition of a novel virus. Hydroxychloroquine has since been proven not to work to combat COVID. All right. Would any of you all like to respond to any of the chat?
Yeah, so
30 seconds.
I'll respond to some of that. I feel what is obvious now that they did in fact say that they knew where this virus came from, and the way that they were able to speed the vaccine to market was because they said that they had been working on this technology for many years, because it was a SARS virus, which was not new. It's the common cold with additive. So this was not new, which is the reason why that vaccine was able to come to market, because they sold to people that they had been working on a, a cure for the novel virus for many, many years. So this was not an unknown virus that came out of the blue, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Shannon, 30 seconds. Should someone lose their job for refusing a vaccine?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that someone should lose their job over a vaccine. But it's kind of difficult for me to even gauge that, because like I said, this was a time where we had no idea how deadly this virus was or what it was going to do if we came in contact with it. But I do believe that there should have been certain measures that should have been put in place when it came to the vaccine to assure that people knew that it was safe. I do agree that it came out a little bit too fast. I will admit that.
Thank you for that. Michael, 30 seconds. Where should society draw the line between personal choice and public consequences?
I think that's a great question. As it relates to COVID, and if I was answering the question that you asked her, I would say mandate not work as a vaccine. It did not prevent contracting the virus. It did not prevent transmitting that virus to anyone else. So where that begins and ends is a very difficult question that I can't
Uh-oh, Michael, you froze on us.
Can I say something real fast, Lisa?
Yes. 30 seconds.
Um, I disagree on that. I have to admit I did get one vaccine. And when I got it, I actually ended up getting the virus probably a year or so later. And I was around other people and they didn't get sick. So I'm not quite sure if he understood that it may have possibly helped out in some way. Um, but I don't know where he's kind of going with that. That's just all I want to say. I'm just saying, speaking from personal experience, that I got it once and nobody else got it after me, and they were around me.
Okay. Michael, you may have to go out and then come back in. And once you do that, we'll put you back on screen because you are frozen. All right. Shannon, 30 seconds for this. If vaccine, which kind of you probably answered it to a certain degree, but if vaccines were effective, why were vaccinated people still restricted?
Mm, I Well, I'm sure. I believe that there was a time frame that you had to be away from someone once they got back. I mean, once they got COVID. But I'm not quite sure if I understand that the restrictions about that. Can you explain that to me a little bit more? I'm not sure if I understand that.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I believe that even though you were um vaccinated, they still wanted you to wear a mask, right? Um, they still didn't want you to be in crowds of people, or they still restricted movement in terms of going to visit your loved ones and things like that. So you
Hmm.
were still restricted, still, even though you were vaccinated. I do remember that.
That must have been a time that I don't remember, because I remember once we got vaccinated, we was partying. We was right back. Look, we was in the club. I was visiting family. I couldn't see my niece unless I got vaccinated. So I'm not sure when we were getting so much conflicted information. That's why I was trying to say about Michael. Like, I believe that the media really is what kind of conjured up the fear and what kind of kept us more misinformed than the actual government itself, because they had control of our perception and what information that we got, what information that we didn't get. Because I don't think I remember this one.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, but you can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. You can only cast your vote on two-sidedtruth.com. If you are, if you've only, you can only cast your vote once without being signed in or subscribed. Go ahead and subscribe with us. We don't spam you. We only send you one email or text out of the week, and that is on Tuesday evening, letting you know that a show is about to start and the topic, so you can join us. All right, we're moving on to round number 3. And that is the crossfire pressure point. This is where arguments are tested and crack under pressure. All right. Few pandemic decisions remain as emotionally charged as school closures. Millions of children transition to remote learning while parents struggle balancing work, childcare, and education at home. Supporters argue leaders acted cautiously to protect families, teachers, and communities during an uncertain time. Critics argue children suffer academically, emotionally, socially, and developmentally in ways society still has not fully addressed. This round explores whether society protected children during the crisis or sacrificed their future out of fear. Question number 3, subtopic number 3. School closures, children, and family impact. Did we actually protect families or fail a generation? Shannon, you are up 2 minutes.
Well, I believe that students definitely did experience learning loss, isolation, mental health struggles, and that's definitely something that's really sad about that time. Parents struggled, but at this time schools were viewed as high risk environments. We got to know that children are germy, as heck. They're very germy. They cough on their hands and touch the next person. And because children could potentially carry the virus home to vulnerable relatives like their parents, their grandparents, or immune compromised family members, it definitely was necessary for there to be some type of restrictions there. School closures, they were only intended to be temporary. And I truly feel like the ones who won were the ones that didn't continue school, didn't stop schooling their children. Even though children were at home, it was still the parents' responsibility to implement studies and to learn with their children. It destroyed families according to Unplug, but I don't believe that. I believe that it possibly showed that some couples weren't happy with another person. That may have been their exit strategy to get up out of there. It also possibly brought families together. It brought my family closer together because we didn't have no choice but to be around each other all day long. So I think that there's a good side and a bad side to the whole situation with families being home. But I think that it was necessary because the kids could have got sick and their little bodies could have possibly put them in a situation where they may not have survived. And then they would have went home and then went home to grandma and grandpa and got them sick. So unfortunately, that was another sacrifice and something that I wish didn't happen, but it was necessary so we wouldn't have deaths among our youth, let alone not only our youth, but among our elders, because nobody wants to get grandma and grandpa sick. That wouldn't work, especially if they already have issues. I can't hear you, Lisa.
Thank you. Michael,
You're
I
welcome.
see you're on StreamYard, but you got to add your camera and your microphone in order for me to add you back to the screen. I see you're at the bottom, but I can't add you because we got to add your mic and you got to add your camera and your mic. So you need to go back out and then okay, there you go. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. Shannon just finished up her statement for the round 3. All right, round 3 question is school closures, children and family impact. Did we protect families or fail a generation? 2 minutes.
Difficult question to answer in the context and the way that I believe. First of all, again, I'm going to go back to saying that we know now that masks did not work, social distancing did not work. The other thing that did not work was shutting down the economy. We have not recovered from that. So having children stay home was damaging. Having families in an environment where they were only around each other and not outside was, I think, psychologically damaging. But again, I understand now why they did what they did. It was to provide the right conditions, the psychological framework in order to get people to participate.
Michael, you're frozen again. I'm not sure why. You were doing good. All right. You may have to go out and come back in, but while you're doing that, I'm going to read some of these comments. Going to what Jose says. No, Trump absolutely did not act in the best way possible. He is quite literally on tape admitting that he knew within the first month or so that the virus was 12 times deadlier than the flu, but told us, the public, otherwise. Unplugged Free Your Mind says hydroxychloroquine does and did work. It was, and he also says it was made up and they destroyed families. Shannon, would you like to respond to any of those comments?
Um, well, I'm not sure about what Jose said. I wasn't aware of the tape, but I did look it up and it did say that it was separate recorded interviews where he admitted he intentionally downplayed the severity to the American public to avoid causing a panic. So that's something that's kind of new to me. I wasn't a Trump fan around that time, by the way. Um, And then what Unplugged said that it destroyed families. I disagree because, like I said, I got closer with my family during COVID. A lot of people got out of very toxic situations and relationships and marriages. Some people discovered that they didn't love their mates at all as much as they did. And they ended up leaving those situations. Like I said, it was a positive and a negative when it came to families around that time. Some families grew closer together and were able to come together and deal with what was going on, and some families separated. So that's just two sides of that coin. But I'm definitely going to look into what Jose was talking about because I never knew of that tape.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Cesar says it was novel because it was a variant of the common cold, not an exact copy. Michael said the shutting down of schools was a bad decision. Many students suffer great educational losses that will be very difficult to recover from.
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
When it comes to the school shutting down, in my opinion, and this is just honest because I had a neighbor who lived below me, that is definitely that was also on the parents. Because the school is supposed to lay down the foundation and they give you the curriculum, but it's up to you as the parents to make sure that the children are actually learning and studying that curriculum. It was my grandmother who taught me how to read, how to actually write. So if kids were struggling, that had a lot to do with who it was in their household that wasn't actually getting on them to look at those books. I mean, we already are learning right now that a lot of the things that were learned in public school, we actually learn more once we leave school. So the indoctrination didn't should have stopped in school and it should have continued the learning at home. So that's on the parents, it's not on the schools.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Mhm.
Michael, you're back. You want to finish your statement, your thoughts?
Yeah, I hate the interruptions, but
Mhm.
I think that we are we're making a false assumption that the goal was to save lives. That is not my contention. The goal was to get people vaccinated, and government, media, pharmaceutical, and industry colluded to create the conditions by which it forced people into vaccines that did not work, by the way. So this notion that they were doing the best that they could, I'm not blaming Trump. I am not a Trump supporter, nor do I have any political affiliation. So I should have said that up front because people have taken a position about COVID vaccines based on their political ideology. I don't have a political ideology that I'm bringing into this conversation. I'm simply looking at what is and understanding now with hindsight what this meant. So government shutdowns, they mandated mask and social distancing. I've already said those things. They've walked back and they said that they did not have any basis in scientific fact. So government or school shutdowns, same thing. They were not based in any scientific fact. They were based in creating the conditions for fear. And I will ask both of you this. We've got mandates for vaccines. Where's the health mandate? Where is the health mandate? They've never mandated health in this country, yet we're willing to mandate a vaccine that did not have clinical trials to support its efficacy. So we've now got 5 states that are in litigation with the biggest pharmaceutical company in the world because of false claims and not disclosing health risks. So there you go.
Thank you so much. All right, the polls are open, you all. The polls are open. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. Shannon, would you like to counter what Michael said?
Um, I really don't have much because I think that I think that we both are kind of saying similar things. Because I do agree that there was some powers that were stronger than the administration that was in in position. This is something that I have actually spoke about on my platform. So I understand where he's coming from. But I think that what my argument was is that it definitely was a lot going on that was saying it was just really all Trump's fault and that he didn't do anything or that he was just the worst for the situation. But I truly believe that we could only do what we knew how to do around that time. it it it's hard for me to gauge it because I'm learning so many different things, even from what Jose just said. When it comes to the schools, like I said, kids are germy as hell. Why would you want to put these kids around the other kids that could possibly get sick and then take it home to their families? Why would you want people to be in situations to where they may possibly get sicker if they're around somebody that may actually have the virus? I think that we were all scared. I think that most of the illnesses came from fear. People were more scared of the actual disease than they were actually scared of what the government was talking about. Nobody wanted to get sick. Nobody wanted to die from a sickness. And fear, it definitely can make you sick. Fear can make you sicker than an actual virus or an actual disease. So I think that that's a lot where it came from. And unfortunately, the outcome was that we had to close some things down. And I don't know. I don't have much to say after that because I kind of understand where Michael's coming from. And it sucks that it went that way and that this is where we are right now. But I just feel like that it's a lot deeper than what we saw on face value. It's a whole lot deeper than that. So that's where I'll land my plane.
Okay. Thank you for that. Michael, would you like to counter?
Yeah, so um, aside from Fauci backtracking on everything that he said, he was considered the face of the virus and the trusted source of information. So the other person that we have not discussed was Mr. Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation. Now, Mr. Bill Gates in 2014 talked about the inevitability of a virus coming, right? He said that in a TED talk back in 2014. What he also did was purchase 500, no, $55 million in stock in Pfizer in 2019, about 5 months before the COVID rolled out. He sold it 2 years later for $550 million. My point in mentioning him is because for whatever reason, he became the booster club for vaccines, right? He flew all over the world, had meetings with governments. So you would ask yourself, maybe like I asked myself in 2021, what does Mr. Bill Gates have to do with virology and viruses and the spread? How did he become an expert on the subject? And what is his background to give him access other than his money? He didn't have it. So he must have known something was coming in the way of a virus in order to make the moves that he had made. So I do think that it was much, much deeper than just the president and that administration at the time.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you all, you can only cast your vote on the two-sidedtruth.com. The polls are open. The polls are open. All right, we are moving to the next round, which is subtopic number 4. And we are in the inferno. The final blaze, the flames are high. Either rise or get burned. During the pandemic, governments around the world expanded emergency powers to enforce restrictions, monitor outbreaks, regulate gatherings, and influence public communication. Supporters argue extraordinary emergencies require extraordinary responses. Critics argue the pandemic normalized government overreach, censorship, digital surveillance, and restrictions on constitutional freedoms that should alarm citizens regardless of politics. This round examines whether government acted responsibly during a crisis or set dangerous precedents for the future. All right, Michael, you are up. Subtopic number 4, emergency power, surveillance, and civil liberties. Did governments cross lines they should never cross? 2 minutes.
You right up my alley. You were right up my alley, Lisa, with this question. Of course they did, which is why I have been saying since we started talking about this was a collusion. It was a crime. in which there is a weapon, there is a motive, there is a beneficiary, and there is intent. I can prove all of those things, or at least I can make the case for all of those things being in play. Listen, we had medical scientists and doctors who were notable in their field of study who said, hey, these mandates are not going to create optimal situations. There are health risks associated with mRNA vaccines. Why are we not talking about the health risks that we have seen in just observation over the last 5 years? We haven't seen blood clots. Sure, we have. Have we seen strokes? Have we seen people literally drop dead? My point is that this was all done to enhance the profitability of billion-dollar companies that also have no legal liability. We haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about these companies that we assume were doing the best job that they could to mitigate a health crisis, when in reality, they were handsomely making profits. The government essentially gave these pharmaceutical companies a blank check and said, you fill the amount out. So that's what we're dealing with. I do not think the intention was ever to save lives. I don't think that government has ever shown itself to be on the side of people's health. Again, there's no health mandate. There was a vaccine mandate, but there's no health mandate.
We can't hear you.
I was done making my point. Can you hear me?
Yeah, she couldn't hear me. I muted myself because
Yeah.
I was coughing. I'm
Okay.
so sorry.
I heard Michael.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Shannon. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. The polls are open, you all. The polls are open. We are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter, but you can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. Shannon, same question. Emergency power, surveillance, and civil liberties. Did governments cross lines that they should never cross?
I mean, I feel like during national emergencies, governments have historically, this has been history. Like they have used temporary emergency powers, whether during wars, during national disasters, and public health crisis. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the big stink in England. It happened in the 1800s where they had to shut down their entire city because of sewer issues that was so bad it was causing government officials to run up out of the courtrooms. They had to shut down that city. And I mean, COVID created a situation where leaders had to make rapid decisions. And this was only to prevent a widespread of loss of life. Temporary restrictions on gatherings, emergency measures were intended, but at the same time, we're not looking at the fact that even with all of those things that was going on, there were still certain things that were put in place that we at least could survive. I mentioned about how they extended, how we knew that people were losing their jobs and they were shutting down factories. So he extended unemployment so people would have a lot longer to survive and to at least do something with the money that they were getting. We got the $1,500 that was given to parents, $500 extra to the kids. People were getting extra money when it comes to their food stamps. People were they didn't even have to pay rent for almost 3 years. So it's like, even though we had all of these situations that took place, I feel like that we had opportunities for us to be able to bounce back. Some people just jacked off the money. People were doing PPP loans and taking it to buy Hellcats and TVs when they could have been using that to create another hustle for them to be able to survive when it was over with. We had ample opportunity as citizens, as human beings, to make sure that when this was all over, because all good things must come to an end, to make sure that we don't fall so far behind that we can't get back up. I think we got complacent. And I feel like I said, the government did the best that they could. It was up to us to make better decisions.
Thank you so much. All right, you all, the polls are open for the subtopic. You can only cast your vote on the twosidedtruth.com. Michael, would you like to counter?
Yeah, so I think she made a good point about some measures that were enacted to try to help people economically through this time. But you know who benefited the most from the emergency order that was prevalent at the time, the pharmaceutical companies did. They got to operate with immunity with these emergency authorizations, meaning that their vaccines did not have to go through typical protocols that would identify any potential risk to health because they were dealing with an emergency. All of those protocols that would have been in place get bypassed. And I don't know if either one of you or anybody in the listening audience has ever looked at Pfizer's earnings statements. And I'm saying Pfizer, but we could say Moderna, or we could say J&J. J&J went away quietly. We don't even talk about J&J as a vaccine distributor anymore because it went away quietly because it didn't work to the degree that they said. So again, this was the play from the beginning. It worked like a charm. And yes, I will agree that fear is a motivator to get people to move and act in accordance with what is being prescribed. So people's health is their responsibility, just like their weight is, just like the food choices that they make. And they did not tell you when all of the statistics that were people that they were feeding you day in and day out was two statistics: deaths and hospitalizations. They never told you the third statistic was the recovery rates, right? We never talked about the recovery rates from COVID, which were 98% for unvaccinated people. The reason why you never heard about the 98% recovery rate is because it wouldn't feed the narrative that people needed to get vaccinated or risk death.
All right. Thank you so much. The polls are open, you all, for this subtopic. The polls are open. Shannon, would you like to counter? Oh, you talking and I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Well, my thoughts still stand. I still stand with personal freedoms. You didn't have to get the vaccine. You know what I mean? Like, I know several people who didn't, and that was a decision that you made personally. Some people didn't have a choice because if they didn't, of course, they end up losing their jobs. But at the same instance, though, I just feel like that I could only you can only control what you can control. We can't control what the pharmaceutical does. We can't control what the people behind the scenes. We could control what Fauci does. You can only control what you can control within your home. So at that time, some people chose to be at home, to not be around a lot of people. Some people chose to wear their mask whenever they went out. Some people chose to get the vaccine. Some people chose not to. It's a personal choice. And I think that with everything that we got from the government, whether it was lies or whether it was propaganda, we all made personal choices. I made a personal choice when it came to COVID to stay away from people until I knew for sure that it was time for me to be able to be around a bunch of people. We had so many different ways that we could get the things that we needed without even being around people. That's when gig economy came into play. And I think that when it comes to personal choice, a lot of people made the choice to get the vaccination without even doing any research at all. It worked out for some people it didn't. I don't know. I'm in the middle when it comes to this whole conversation because we know that there's things that we can't control. We can't control the pharmaceutical companies. We can't control what they do. We can control not to take it or we can control to take it. Some people decided that I don't want to take it. So guess what? I'm going to take this unemployment for these 13 weeks plus these 24 weeks, and I'm gonna do what I need to do, create me a little side hustle and protect my family. So it all comes down with using what you got to get what you want and to survive and thrive no matter what's going on around the outside.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, the polls are open, you all. The polls are open. I just want to read this last comment. The government definitely crossed the line. For instance, here in Chicago, when the restrictions first started, we were not even allowed to walk in the parks outside. They had police officers on horseback making sure that people would not walk into the parks. That is a form of martial law, which is a clear example of government overreach. All right, I have some questions and then we're going to move to our very last round. Okay. Michael, 30 seconds. Do civil liberties remain absolute even during deadly emergencies?
They have to. They have to. If not, they are not civil liberties. Then you really don't have them if they are subject to being taken or rescinded at the discretion of people in government. Either we have these rights or we don't. So they are not subject to, we got them today on Monday, but we don't have them tomorrow on Tuesday. So either we have them or we don't.
Okay. Thank you so much. Shannon, 30 seconds. Uh, should governments ever have the authority to restrict movement, gatherings, and business operations?
Um, hmm. I feel like that's the real debate. That's that versus freedom versus versus control. But I definitely believe that when it comes to protecting the lives during a crisis without permanently sacrificing liberties, absolutely. If it's going to make sure that we have less sick elders, less sick children, less deaths, absolutely. If the government is going to make sure that whatever income is lost, that they're going to create some type of gateway for people to still feed their families and pay their bills, absolutely. That's just my thought.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right. We are moving to our last and final round, which is a debate or die round. And with this round, you say it with your full chest, no scripts, just the truth. Oh, you started already. Okay. This is our last round. This is our sparring round, which is timed for 5 minutes. Shannon and Michael will have a chance to interact respectfully and ask each other questions and counter. So you have a collective 5 minutes. You can ask each other questions. You can lay out your final thoughts or whatever it is that you want to do. But with this debate or die round, points are triple here. So we're trying to prevent a tie. So with that being said, whoever wants to start off, go on ahead and move. Let's do it.
So we're just asking questions to each other
Yep,
and
you can ask questions and correspond.
okay. So Michael, my question is, do you believe that the government has any public responsibility when it comes to a public health emergency?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
As it relates to COVID in this topic, I think that so much of it was coercion that they threatened to restrict people's ability to work. They threatened to uh, restrict people to travel. In fact, I remember back in 2021, it was being put out there that people who were unvaccinated should not be allowed to go to the grocery store. So, yes, I do believe that there is a governmental responsibility to public health. However, I don't see these same officials in the government have never come to my neighborhood with an organic vegetable or mitigated any of the underlying health issues that are prevalent inside my community. So it's hard for you to tell me that you have a desire for public health when I have not seen that same energy as it relates to the health disparities that exist amongst our people.
Okay. Did you have one for me?
I can't hear you. Lisa, did you say something?
No, I was saying, did you have anything for me? I think we going back and
Oh,
forth.
I do. So my question to you is, now that you've got 5 years, 6 years now in hindsight since COVID, are there things that trouble you now about what this was, mandates, vaccines? Is there anything that you say that you can identify and say, hey, if I had known this at the time, I may have made a different decision about my own personal decision to get vaccinated or social distancing?
I honestly, I would say the one thing that I regret is getting BlackRock involved in our politics. Is reaching out to these private equity firms in order to fund a situation, because that is the reason why we have inflation. That's the reason why our housing market is so expensive. And I mean, that started in 2008 under Obama, when they decided to have the Fed knock on the doors of people like BlackRock and ask them for assistance when it comes to our corporations from losing money. The biggest issue is with the banks, in my opinion, because the banks, they have more control over our government than we do, and we're the ones that vote them in position. So I think that the biggest regret for me when it comes to C-19 is getting is taking care of banks before taking care of the people. Bailing out corporations before actually making sure that we have all the things necessary to survive as human beings. And that's my biggest issue, because we're paying for it now. Those checks that we got during COVID, we're paying for those now. Nothing was ever given to us for free, and I think that's the biggest issue that I have with this situation.
Okay, I got another question for you.
Okay.
What would you like to see the current administration do to Fauci and the institutes of health and all of the entities that had a stake in rolling out the plan and protocols for COVID? What would you like to see the current administration do to exact or seek justice if needed, in your opinion? What should happen to those folks that were at the front of the pandemic?
Guantanamo Bay, please. Yes. I definitely feel that they all need to be held accountable. This was definitely a crime against humanity. And like I mentioned, when it comes to the administration, I believe that a lot of the information that they were given wasn't even correct, which gave us incorrect information just to put fear in our hearts. And it definitely bothers me that they put that much emphasis on what we should have been doing, and nothing is happening to them. So definitely people like Bill Gates, Larry Fink, and Fauci. Absolutely, I believe that they should suffer the consequences for how they have robbed America of our liberties and of our ability to actually have the American dream, and turning it into a nightmare for billions and billions of dollars.
That's fair.
All right. You all, great job. Great job. So, first of all, I would like to thank you both of you all for coming on. I don't know what happened to Shannon. Oh, she got kicked off or something. But first of all, I'd like to thank both of you all for coming on. You did a wonderful job. And I hope, regardless of whoever wins this evening, that you come back. Oh, she's back.
They didn't like that. I think Larry was listening. Sorry.
I didn't think so either. I was just giving my thank yous to the both of you all. I thank you so much for coming on, regardless of who wins. I hope both of you all come back at some point and debate again. But as you all know, there's always a winner at the two-sidedtruth.com. And Michael Allen, you are it. You won. Congratulations. Thank you both so much. Would you like to have a closing, either one of you all?
I was just happy to be a part of this. A lot of the things that I wanted to be the opposing side, but honestly, Mike, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of the stuff you were saying, my guy, I definitely feel you. I'm on your side, so I want you to know that I'm with you. But I just wanted to see if I could be the opposing side, if that helps.
Sis, let me tell you. First of all, I'm already knowing that we probably agree a lot more than disagree. I already know that. So, Lisa, thank you for providing this platform and allowing me to share some of my thoughts. And, hopefully we have created more buzz for your platform and driving additional interest for you. Sister, I appreciate you being my very formidable sparring partner. I appreciate much of what you said, and I wish both of you and everyone who is listening in nothing but health and happiness.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. If you believe you can hold your own during a debate and you love presenting facts and you can civilly debate with passion, sign up to be a debater. Go to the two-sidedtruth.com, scroll down just a little bit and click the Become a Debater button. If you'd like to suggest a topic to the two-sidedtruth.com, scroll down a little bit, and right next to the Become a Debater button, there's a Suggest a Topic button. Type it in and suggest as a topic. Thank you to our audience for tuning in today. Join us for next week's debate, where our topic of debate is ICE enforcement, public safety, or civil rights concern. Join us for two debaters with opposing views, Maurice Williams and Michael Ferguson. If you want to keep the conversation like this going, check out our newsletter at theflipsidewithlisatracy.com, where we bring you two perspectives with two opposing views. Don't forget to subscribe to us and like and share. Like us on YouTube, Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe on the Two-Sided Truth. It is free. Don't forget to support us. Buy some of our merch. Thank you once again and have a wonderful evening.